state leaders must be wise and set good example for all. 425 illegal immigrants detained in early morning raid. You're watching Updates at Noon with me, Renee Fong. Prime Minister Datuk Sri Anwar Ibrahim said state leaders should be setting a good example for the young in a wise manner in their talks and preachings, and not by hurling insults. He said they need to be leaders who can be role models among the younger generation and speak more of their state's current and future development plans. Datuk Sri Anwar said state leaders should also have good ties with the federal government to enable negotiations to be carried out for the development of the states, including attracting investments that can give a positive impact on the people. As such, Datuk Sri Anwar hopes that the people of Kedah will give an opportunity to the parties in the unity government to find a way to help and raise the dignity of the people in this state. Meanwhile, when speaking at the Jelajah Perpaduan Madani Alostar last night, the Prime Minister said there was an indication that voters in Kedah are rejecting leaders who were troublemakers and liked to insult and curse other leaders.
Saya tengok ada movement, ada gerakan rakyat. Tak mau gaduh-gaduh. Tak mau maki-maki orang. Tak mau hina orang, hina kaum, tak mau. Mau negara ini satu negara united. Mau maju ekonomi. Mau jaga rakyat miskin.
According to Datuk Sri Anwar, during these past 8 months as Prime Minister, there had been no misconduct involving members of his administration. The Ministry of Domestic Trade and Cost of Living (KPDN) will implement the Ramah Sale program twice a month in 640 state constituencies nationwide from this month. Its Deputy Minister Fuzia Saleh said this is following the KPDN receiving an additional 50 million ringgit allocation as announced by Prime Minister Datuk Sri Anwar Ibrahim on 30th of July.
Jadi 640 don seluruh negara, sasarannya 6,400 dua kali setahun. Ya, 5 bulan, 5 kali 2 kali 640, 6,400 kali di 6,400 lokasi. InsyaAllah sampai hujung tahun. Di kedai cari rakyat tu akan pergi cari lokasi di 6,400 lokasi.
She said this after the launch of the Kelantan state-level Rahmah Carnival in Kota Baru yesterday. The 2-day Rahmah Carnival provides visitors with the opportunity to purchase basic daily necessities at up to 30% cheaper than local market prices, while the menu Rahmah sale involves 100 operators. At the carnival, Fuzia also presented 20 Rahmah baskets containing basic necessities to B40 recipients. The existing national education curriculum will be enhanced to get students to be more interested to learn science and mathematics subjects. Education Minister Fadlina Siddiq said this would be done through various interventions and initiatives in collaboration with the Ministry of Science, Technology and Innovation, MOSTI.
Kita ambil pandangan itu sebagai satu cabaran untuk KPM dan sebenarnya kita pun telah menetapkan hala 7 STEM untuk KPM dan kita telah ambil beberapa intervensi, program buat intervensi dan juga inisiatif-inisiatif khususnya bersama Kementerian Sains dan Teknologi juga. Jadi insya-Allah dari semasa ke semasa saya ingat hala 7 STEM ini kita akan kukuhkan lagi. Kita juga perlukan lebih banyak lagi pelibatan daripada semua komuniti, input-input dan juga komitmen daripada ibu bapa khususnya untuk mendorong anak-anak untuk meminati STEM juga.
Fadlina was commenting on the proposal by Prime Minister Datuk Sri Anwar Ibrahim on new approaches to attract students' interest in science and mathematics. He said this followed the latest study by MOE, which revealed a decline in students' interest in both subjects. A total of 45 pupils in several districts in Perak, including Kinta Utara, Kinta Selatan, Larut, Matang and Selama, Mualim and Kerian, have been infected with the hand, foot and mouth disease HFMD. Perak State Exco Khairuddin Abu Hanifah said as a precaution, the district health officers have ordered the closure of some preschool and primary school classes for 10 days.
Biasalah SAHIH ni dia adalah satu penyakit yang berjangkit yang perlu dibuat kawalan lebih awal. Mungkin pihak sekolah perlu memastikan pelajar yang nak hadir sekolah ni memang tidak ada gejala-gejala HFMD itu. Kerana kalau ada dia akan mudah berjangkit kerana dia adalah virus yang dibuat oleh satu jenis yang boleh merebak.
Khairuddin, who is the State Education, Higher Education, Youth and Sports Committee Chairman, said the spread of HFMD in the state has not reached a concerning level, adding that the relevant parties have taken appropriate control measures. In another development, Khairuddin said the State Education Department was still waiting for the results of the police investigation before taking action against a secondary school student in Gunung Rapat who was allegedly involved in a bullying case last month. A total of 425 illegal immigrants were detained in an immigration department raid at an apartment complex in Taman Bukit Ceras early this morning. The operation was conducted following multiple complaints lodged by the local residents on the presence of too many foreigners who have been disturbing them. The operation, which commenced at 1 a.m., was conducted by 80 immigration personnel and officers, led by Kuala Lumpur Immigration Director Shamsul Badrin Mohsin.
Dalam operasi ini ramai lebih kurang 600 orang telah diperiksa dan daripada 600 orang itu seramai 425 orang telah ditahan. Pecahan adalah terdiri daripada warga Myanmar, Indonesia, Filipin, Pakistan, Bangladesh, Kemboja dan Nepal. Dan yang paling ramai adalah daripada Bangladesh seramai 252 orang dan diikuti oleh daripada Myanmar seramai 108 orang. Tangkapan ini juga melibatkan seramai 371 orang lelaki dewasa, seorang kanak-kanak lelaki dan 53 orang perempuan wanita dewasa.
During the operation, immigration personnel had to act swiftly and even had to protect themselves from illegal immigrants that tried to act aggressively as they threw objects towards the personnel. There were some of them who tried to run away and hide in garbage bins and closets. All detainees were brought to the Bukit Jalil Immigration Depot for further action. Ukraine hoping for positive end in Saudi talks. That and more coming up in the foreign segment. Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky hoped that talks on finding a peaceful settlement to the war in Ukraine held in Saudi Arabia this weekend, an important step towards an eventual global peace summit. Ukrainian and Western diplomats hope the meeting in Jeddah between national security advisors and other senior officials from some 40 countries will agree on key principles for a future peace settlement to end Russia's war in Ukraine. Zelensky and his team are working with all allies to build broad support for a peace summit that would endorse principles to underpin a settlement to end the war. The summit would build on a 10-point plan outlined by Kiev last autumn that has been actively promoted by Zelensky. His vision for peace calls for the full restoration of Ukraine's territorial integrity and a full withdrawal of Russian troops, the protection of food and energy security, nuclear safety, the release of all prisoners, and other points. Crowds of worshippers flooded to the Grand Mosque in Niger's capital, hoping their prayers for peace would be answered after West Africa's regional bloc said it had devised a possible plan to reinstate ousted President Mohamed Bazoum by force. The Economic Community of West African States, ECOWAS, has given Niger's coup leaders until Sunday to step down and reinstate elected President Mohamed Bazoum. The bloc has taken a hard stance on last week's takeover, the seventh coup in West and Central Africa since 2020. Whatever option they chose risks further conflict in one of the poorest regions of the world, where groups linked to Islamic State and Al-Qaeda thrive on chaos. The peace prayer organized by Niger's Islamic Association on Friday took neither a stance for nor against the coup, with worshippers largely promoting messages of commiseration between all parties. Gunfire rang out again at Florida's Marjorie Stoneman Douglas High School on Friday, this time as part of a reenactment of the shooting 5 years ago that killed 14 students and 3 faculty members. The restaging of the school shooting, one of the deadliest in U.S. history, was part of a civil lawsuit against Scott Peterson, a police officer who was stationed outside the Parkland, Florida high school when the gunfire began on 14th February 2018. Ahead of the reenactment, 9 members of Congress and family members of victims toured the school building. Lawyers for the families of the victims and survivors who filed the lawsuit have said surveillance video and the reenactment would prove that Peterson heard the 70-plus shots but avoided confronting the gunman. In June, Peterson was acquitted by a Florida jury of criminal charges of child neglect, culpable negligence, and perjury connected the shooting. The building is scheduled to be demolished after the reenactment. It has remained largely unaltered since the 2018 shooting, with bloodstains and bullet holes still visible. Thousands of people overran New York's Union Square and the surrounding streets on Friday after a popular live streamer announced a giveaway event that grew chaotic, prompting hundreds of police officers to respond and disperse the crowd. The event was promoted by Kai Cenat, best known for his live streams on the gaming site Twitch and YouTube videos, who announced the huge giveaway during a live stream on Thursday. Cenat also live streamed his arrival to the event at Union Square on Friday, showing him exiting a car surrounded by security guards and cheering fans. Aerial footage showed crowds gathered as people were seen flinging bottles and chairs, climbing onto the roof of a subway entrance, tearing down construction barriers and standing on top of cars. It was not immediately clear what had sparked the chaos, but by 5 p.m., police had set up barricades around the square and largely contained the crowd. Cenat, 21, has 6.5 million followers on Twitch and 4 million subscribers on YouTube. He was also named Streamer of the Year in 2022 at the Streamy Awards. Former U.S. President Donald Trump blasted charges of plotting to overturn the 2020 election loss as fake 1 day after his arraignment in Washington, D.C. Trump, speaking at a Republican dinner in Alabama on Friday, said the indictment was an act of desperation by Democratic U.S. President Joe Biden, targeting him for political reasons. The former president faces 4 counts, including conspiracy to defraud the U.S., to deprive citizens of their voting rights, and to obstruct an official proceeding. The most serious charge carries a maximum prison sentence of 20 years. A day after his visit to largely hostile Washington, Trump received a warm reception at the Republican summer dinner in Montgomery, Alabama state capitol. The 77-year-old billionaire won Alabama by landslides in 2016 and 2020, and all 6 Republicans the state sends to the House of Representatives in Washington endorsed his re-election bid ahead of the evening engagement. Next in sports, JDT roar fiercely, sink Kelantan FC in Malaysia Cup match. Stay with us. Defending champions Johor Darul Ta'zim JDT showed that they are in no mood to relinquish their hold on the coveted Malaysia Cup when they trounced Kelantan FC F1 in the round of 16 first leg tie at the Sultan Muhammad IV Stadium in Kota Baru last night. The Southern Tigers were clearly playing on a different level from the first whistle, and it took them just 7 minutes to open the floodgates, with prolific Brazilian hitman Bergson da Silva coolly beating Kelantan goalkeeper Muhammad Irfan Haikal Muhammad Effendi in a one-on-one situation. JDT's new import striker Herberti Fernandez then notched a brace for himself in the 15th and 24th minutes to extend the lead to 3-0. Although the Red Warriors tried to stage a fight back, it was to no avail as JDT continued to dominate the proceedings before defender Shahrul Muhammad Saad made it 4-0 in the 50th minute. The Southern Tigers added a fifth goal in the 67th minute courtesy of Muhammad Nazmi Faiz Manson before Kelantan managed to get a consolation goal through a long-range attempt by Muhammad Khalaif Muhammad Naskam 5 minutes before the end. The defeat left Kelantan with a mountain to climb in the return leg at the Sultan Ibrahim Stadium in Iskandar Putri Johor on 19th August. Over at the Kuala Lumpur Football Stadium in Cheras, Terengganu FC kicked off their campaign with a comfortable margin. Ivan Mahmud bagged a hat-trick to steer the Turtles to a 4-0 thrashing of M3 League leaders Kuala Lumpur Rovers FC KL Rovers last night. The 26-year-old Croatian opened accounts in the 18th minute before doubling the Turtles' lead late into injury time in the first half when he slotted home a cross from Sony Nord. Nord then had another assist to his name when he laid on a perfect pass for Engku Muhammad Nur Shakir Engku Yaakob to make it 3-0 in the 52nd minute. Mahmoud sealed the road with his third goal in the 67th minute as the Turtles take home a comfortable lead for the return leg in Kuala Nerus, Terengganu on 18th August. In tennis, Taylor Fritz extended his winning streak to 6 matches on the American hard courts with a comeback win against Andy Murray at the Washington City DC Open. In a match that was postponed from Thursday evening by rain, the Atlanta champion earned a 6-7, 6-3 and 6-4 victory after 3 hours of action on the stadium court. The match showcased not only both players' raw power but also their versatility, with each deploying deft drop shots at critical times, often leading to entertaining rallies on a hot and humid day. He will next take on Jordan Thompson for a spot in the semi-finals. The winner will face Thailand Griebspoor for the place in the final after the Dutch player overwhelmed American JJ Wolf 7-5, 6-4. Meanwhile, hometown hero Francis Tiafoe, who grew up in the DC metropolitan area, beat 18-year-old qualifier Shang Juncheng 6-2, 6-3. Tiafoe rifled a forehand passing shot on match point and raised his arms to pump up the adoring crowd after notching the win. The second-seeded Tiafoe will face Dan Evans in a quarter-final later on today after the Briton beat Russia's Alexander Svechenko 6-4, 6-3. The winner will take on Bulgarian Grigor Dimitrov, who reached the semi-finals without hitting a ball after he was handed a walkover by Frenchman Hugo Humbert. Elsewhere, Dominic Thiem saved 5 match points on Friday to oust 5th seed Laszlo Djere 6-7, 7-5 and 7-6 at the Generali Open and reach his first tour-level final since the 2020 Nitto ATP Finals. The former world number 3 thrilled the home crowd with fearless backhand winners and held his nerve and serve throughout the thrilling 3-hour, 30-minute battle. Thiem was unbroken, fending off all 12 break points faced to survive his third consecutive match from a set down. The Austrian saved a trio of match points on serve at 5-6 in the third set and another 2 in the decisive tie-break. He will next meet Sebastian Baez in the final, where he will look to avenge last year's bastard loss to the Argentine. The match will be the former world number 3's first final since the 2020 ATP finals, as he continues to climb the ranks since returning from a wrist injury. Earlier, Baez put away his compatriot number 1 seed, Thomas Martin Echeverry, 7-6, 3-6 and 6-4. In motorsport, World Rally champion Kelly Rovanperä crashed out of the Rally Finland lead after rolling his Toyota in Stage 8 on Friday afternoon. Rovanperä lost control of his GR Yaris going over a crest 11.1 kilometre into the famous Mihinpa stage. Rovanperä and co-driver Joan Haltonen rolled before eventually coming to a halt upside down at the edge of the gravel road. The crash came as a surprise to many, given Rovanperä held a 5.7 seconds rally lead over Toyota teammate Elfyn Evans, heading into Stage 8 and seemed to be in control after winning the previous 5 stages. The incident has handed the rally lead to Evans, with the 2021 Rally Finland winner 10.9 seconds ahead of Hyundai's Thierry Neuville, with the Toyota of Takamoto Katsuka sits third, 13.3 seconds adrift. Rovanperä's exit is the latest of a string of dramatic events on Friday that has already seen M Sports duo Ott Tanak and Pierre-Louis Lobet retire, in addition to Hyundai's Esa-Pekka Lappi. Driverless rides, the discovery of giant ancient whale, and the development of the whitest paint were among the interesting happenings from all over the world this week. Let's take a look at these amazing stories in the world around us. To encourage Abu Dhabi residents to choose driverless rides, the UAE is offering free trips around Saadiyat and Yas Island on board the high-tech autonomous models. In collaboration with WeRide, an international autonomous driving technology company, the country's Integrated Transport Centre ITC expanded its driverless fleet in hopes of integrating it into its national transport network.
Amazing, because most of us is the first time trying the robotaxi, and the second is the comfortable. The robotaxi is more comfortable than the human drive, because the human drive always have a harsh brake or the high speed. But for the robotaxi is follow the regulations, and the inside of the over the robotaxi, the environment is very good.
First introduced in 2021, the autonomous service spent more than a year testing its operations on UAE roads. Equipped with sensors, 10 cameras and a safety officer behind the wheel, WeRide assures that its vehicles are safe. Look out, blue whale. There's a new contender for your heavyweight title. Scientists said a newly discovered whale that lived nearly 40 million years ago could be the heaviest animal to have ever lived, based on a partial skeleton found in Peru. The modern blue whale has long been considered the largest and heaviest animal ever, beating out all the giant dinosaurs of the distant past. But Parachutus colossus, the colossal whale from Peru, may have been even heavier, according to a study published in the journal Nature. Extrapolating from some massive bones found in the Peruvian desert, an international team of researchers estimated that the animal had an average body mass of 180 tons. That would not take the heavyweight title by itself. According to Guinness World Records, the biggest blue whale ever recorded weighed 190 tons. But the researchers estimated the ancient whale's weight range was between 85 and 340 tons, meaning it could have been significantly larger. A total of 13 gigantic vertebrae, one of which weighed nearly 200 kilograms, were found at the site in Peru, as well as 4 ribs and a hip bone. Researchers at Purdue University in Indiana have developed what is being dubbed as the world's whitest paint ever. The paint has the potential to significantly reduce energy consumption from air conditioning units by reflecting sunlight back into space and effectively cooling buildings and structures.
Our paint with a 98.1% reflectance, we only absorb 1.9% of the sunlight. So you can see that's a factor of 5 to 10 times reduction compared to the 10 to 20% absorption of the commercial white paint. Now, what happens is that with such little absorption to the sunlight, now the infrared heat emitted by our paint becomes much less than the absorbed heat from the sunlight.
Siu Lin added that this would cool outdoor surfaces more than 4.5 degrees Celsius below ambient temperature. Unlike previous attempts at creating ultra-white paints, this newly developed formula does not rely on expensive and rare materials, making it scalable for mass production. Known as the capital of concrete, Pristina is trying to revitalize its dull and grey image with vivid graffiti on walls and buildings, helping transform public spaces into more inviting, vibrant areas. More than 100 artists from 28 countries have covered 2,000 square meters of walls at Ruga B or Street B with art during the Meeting of Styles Kosovo Festival, held recently in Pristina. The road divides old communist buildings on the west with new ones on the east, which all have one thing in common: scant space for public use and an abundance of concrete.
Ky beton italian për shtypjen e under construction, që është në ndërtim e sipër. Është normal që nuk është e mirë, nuk reflekton mirë as te qytetarët, por sidomos për turistat që vinë pa, është gjë e keqe. Interesant është artistat kur I shohin këto hapësira thonë ku është veni më I mirë për marrë me vizatues se ka shumë. Normal që na kemi edhe çet qëllim, mos me lonën mure 2 kilometra në mes të sheshit me muri I vrasht me beton, ku ta lëm përime për shtypjen që është duke u ndërtuar ajo fakta e përfunduar në mëti.
And that ends Updates at Noon. Wrapping up with a recap of our top stories, state leaders must be wise and set good example for all. Tune in to Malaysia Tonight, coming up at 8:30 p.m. on TV1 and saluran Berita RTM. Thanks for watching. I'm Renee Fong, Malaysia Madani. Tekad perpaduan, penuhi harapan. Have a pleasant weekend.